This is FitSpaz Recovery. I'm your host, Paul the producer, and I'm here to help you get fit, get healthy, and stay sober. What a day I have had. This is one of those days, just where it's totally coincidence in some ways, and it's totally something I have to take responsibility for. It was not the best day in the world for a whole myriad of reasons. Talk about annoying, all the stuff I had to go through today, but I kind of persevered. I got through it in the end, and here I am. I would have done this show earlier, but I was preoccupied with those things. But before I get to that, let me just tell you how my fitness is going. I stopped doing yoga for now. I know that downward dog doesn't agree with this lower part of my back, and I'll get back to that and I'll modify, but I went to the chiropractor on Monday, and I could tell that I got a lot of relief from doing that. And instead of doing yoga, so I took a day off from yoga, and then I decided, hey, no, instead of doing yoga once more, I'm going to go downtown and do this chiropractic work. And then the following day I did T25 with Sean T, and I did a cardio workout. It was very cool. After 2 weeks, I mean, it's so crazy how fast cardio ability will just disappear if you don't keep up with it. And that's what happened to me. So I could tell I was very, very, very winded doing this program, struggling. I know that I've done a lot better with this one in the past when I get my cardio really developed. And it was just so bloody hard. My lungs were hoarse. And also, what's true is my legs were so sore because I haven't been doing the same kinds of squatting routines and whatnot. And it's only been, like 2 weeks, I think, since I finished up core to force. And so it kind of amazes me how sore my legs are right now. So nonetheless, I'm glad I did fitness yesterday. Today, I could not exactly do fitness because my studio was insane. It was just in total disarray, and I'm going to tell you this story, and if you don't want to hear it, tune out, goldfish. What are you listening for anyway if you have the attention span of a goldfish, okay? But so yesterday I decided, hey, I have all this free time on my hands. I'm going to reorient my studio, which you see the same thing here. I will get to that momentarily. I decided to put this different table in here that has a bigger surface area. And when I put it in here, so I dismantled all of this stuff, and this room was a chaotic mess. All this, what you see over here, was over there, except this is a new TV, in case you couldn't tell. It's flickering, it's doing something weird. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't feel so good about that. I have to solve that. I have to resolve that. It's gonna bug me forever. But anyway, today... So yesterday, I didn't finish putting everything together. I was really tired. I had only had 6.5 hours of sleep, so I was like, I'm going to get a good night's sleep. I'm going to call it an evening. It was all dismantled, all taken apart. Everything you see was completely broken down. And so I couldn't do a show. And in the morning, I was like, well, since this surface area I put in was too big, I couldn't get it to work in this environment. It's a very strange environment right here. And so I decided I'm going to put it back the way I had it. And so I put it back pretty much like the way you see it. And I was underneath where this TV is earlier today. And I was trying to put a stick underneath this thing that is the thing like that so that it doesn't like smash through and break in the middle. I kind of have a fear of that. And so what happened was I get down there to put this stick up under there to prop it up, and I'm like, okay, be very careful. Otherwise, if you screw it up, everything on top of this thing could come crashing down. And boom, that's exactly what happened. The TV that was here, which is now over there, came crashing off the front and broke on the floor. Both speakers came off. And this other heavy piece I used to have under here, which is now not visible, it's behind the mixer. All these things came crashing down, and the funny thing is, I was under there with my head. And I was like, oh, I know it's falling, and I just go like this, and I cover my head. And so I plug that TV back in, and it's done. Completely wiped out. Screwed. Screwed the pooch. Bad news. Okay? Okay, yeah. So, like, it just frustrates the living crap out of me. It did. And so I went and I bought this new TV. I went to Best Buy and I'm looking at it, and here's the first snafu. It's just like a whole bunch of things, okay? And so before I tell you all the story, let me tell you how I've had to exercise patience all day long. One of the number one virtues we have to exercise in our lives, patience. I just did it all day long. I went and bought this TV. It's a brand called Hisense. And yeah, no, I haven't heard of that either, but it's a Roku TV. So if you know what Roku is, it's kind of like an Apple TV, but a different brand. I use a couple of those and I do my Beachbody workouts through them. And I thought, hey, cool. This will allow me to get rid of my Roku box, which mysteriously you still see there. It's still there, back there. You can't see it. It's kind of dark in this picture. Still there because even though this is a Roku TV, the only way you can hook it up to get the Roku services is through Wi-Fi. And as I'm buying it, I'm thinking, I hope it has an Ethernet connection. Probably does. Why wouldn't it? Of course, I get home and no, there's not an Ethernet connection. So I'm like, that's not all either. There's this whole new configuration here I don't want to get totally into, but I wanted a TV that had a base in the center of the TV, like a square base in the center of the TV. Instead, it's mounted on two stands on both sides, two separate stands. And so it wouldn't work the way that I had it in mind to set it up. So I was like, crap, man. The one on the display is the one they have as the display, and the one in the box is the one that's the newer model, which I didn't know. And so I get it home and I realize I have to reconfigure all this stuff in here. And I did a very good job with that part. I got the TV here fitting because it's bigger. This is a 40-inch. The one prior was 32 inches. And you're bored, but let me tell you, I have more. I have more. I have more. I have more. And so I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to return this TV? I go back and find out that it's just not the TV I want, but I also am like, yeah, I'm going to try and make this one work. So I bring it back home, and I did get it to work here as far as where it is. And now I see it flickering, and that doesn't work with me. But also, oh, what else about the TV? So I got it in here, and I got all these things I'm not going to tell you about taken care of in there, and oh shit. I go to plug it into this computer right here to get that image up there like you see it, and it won't work. It won't work at all. It's just flickering and on and off, and it's like you can't get a consistent picture. Kind of like on previous shows when it used to flick on and off weirdly, but it's just like Imagine earlier today I was doing it all the time. So I went back to Best Buy. I bought another adapter to go with this computer here, a mini display Thunderbolt hookup to a female HDMI, and then I run it here, and now it's working, but it's not perfect. So I'm back. My heater might go on, but then it'll subsequently probably really quickly turn off. I don't know if I'm going to cut that out, but I just kind of had like a mini meltdown when I heard my furnace kick on, because I'm like, oh, there's the one thing I forgot. And my fault again, my responsibility. So when I was hooking my TV up to put it up here, another thing went wrong because it was in this area right here in front of me. And I had my sunglasses on the ground and I stepped on those. But thank goodness they didn't break, because the lens came out of one and the other one, the lens partly came out. I just popped them right back in, but I was like, ah! How many more things could go wrong today? I do not know. But I had to go to Lowe's and get get a lengthened size shelf to accommodate this larger TV to make this work. And so I got this shelf cut to 54 inches long. And yes, that went perfectly. I love how they can cut stuff there, actually. But as I put it in the cart, and you know how there's this metal piece of the cart where children sit? Well, I leaned it up in there, and this thing came down and goes whoomp. And it was so close to hitting me in the face, it was unbelievable. And I'm thinking to myself, what is it with today? Like, this is true. I don't want to say it was a bad day. I kind of sort of in a way got a good net result. But I never intended on breaking that TV. I wasn't going to go get a new TV. So the $250 I spent on that TV, and the $20 I spent on the adapter for that, and the $20 I spent on this wood here with the screws to mount something under it and stuff, all that money should have gone to buy myself a new iMac, which I want to put in this studio as part of my New Year's upgrades, but instead I have this new larger TV. And I have to read possibly online if there's a way I can get rid of this flickering. That old TV I think is an LCD. This new one is an LED, and I'm not a fan of LED. Ergo the little flickering there. Do I sound irritated? Because I'm not sure if I'm going to cut the part out where I just went to turn off my furnace from coming on because I was like swearing my butt off. I'm like, oh man, I finally get to where I go for this. And it's like one more thing. And the furnace was already low. It's just that it's getting later at night and more cold than it turned on. And so I'm like, holy crap. So let me just make all of this about patience right now, okay? Patience, patience, patience. I have had to exercise it all day long. I didn't get to do my normal morning routine the way I wanted, but I was okay with that. I was like, okay, I'm just going to put this thing back together. But when all these things came tumbling down, and most especially when that TV broke, was where I was like, exercise patience. But you know what happened when I stepped on my sunglasses? It was a classic moment. I just got angry now as I went up to turn off the furnace, because I was doing this and I didn't want to come on and go voo during this. And what are you going to do, Paul? What are you going to do? But it's just one of these things where I stepped on my glasses, and instead of getting super angry, I was like, oh, no, it's just not worth it. Somehow I was able just to dismiss it and patiently let that roll off my back. So sad this TV broke. I mean, it was a perfectly good TV, and to have it fall down, and you see the front face where it's cracked. It doesn't look that bad when it's off, so I plugged it in, and there is no picture. It's gone. It's dead. And so it's like a tragic loss when a piece of gear like that goes down the pooper for me. I would much rather give that to my daughter and have her put it in her room. Notwithstanding the drawback of having a child with a TV in their room, the reasons why you don't want to do that, I just don't want it to break. And maybe that's totally selfish what I just said, okay? Maybe not, because I don't want her to have unfettered access to TV, so I take that back. I just don't want it to break. I'd rather put it in the back room and find another purpose for it in the future than have it fall down and break. Oh, man. But look, the positive sides, okay? Thank goodness. These speakers up here, which are like 15 pounds, and this other piece that's underneath the TV that you can't see, thank goodness they didn't fall on my head, because they all went tumbling down to the ground like 4 feet. From 4 feet to the ground. I knew they were falling, and I just went like this. I was like, here it comes. I was expecting to have this, but it was not to be. So, and I don't know why. I've gotten relatively good sleep. The last night was a pretty good night of sleep. I got many hours, and still today I'm just like, groggy, out of it. But, I mean, like, don't let this fool you, okay? I was in pretty good spirits doing what I was doing most of the days, except for the snafu. Had that TV not broken, that would have been hours on hours of saved time, not having to go to Best Buy thrice, 3 times, and not having to go to Lowe's once. And so, and I really have no one to blame except for myself. And I told myself calmly, I was like, dude, all the mistakes today, you should have just been paying attention. And the surface that these things are on right now is not a super solid surface. I reinforced it with some new screws. So that came tearing apart. It's just a cheap desk. That came tearing apart, and I had to like reassemble it and re-screw it together. It didn't have to happen if I was paying attention. So there were a few times today when I was like, what is up with me? Because I wasn't paying attention. I'm usually pretty good at being like, okay, this, so many years I've had this set up here, and I've been like, gotta be careful, don't want it to all fall down. And today, it all fell down. And Everything was repairable except the television set. And the situation is redeemable. It's not like Humpty Dumpty, okay? Somehow I fixed it. Sure, it cost $300 to fix it. All of my Christmas gift out the window on something else. But that's okay. It's a tiny bit bigger. Want to see if I can figure that flicker out. What else is going on, people? Oh, and just honestly, patience. It's priceless. I mean, the old me. Let's contrast it to the old me. Back in the day when I would smoke in the morning and my temper would be raging. Way worse than it was when I went up to turn off the furnace. I'm going to have to cut that out because I said the F word 10 times in about 10 seconds. So, yeah, like back in the day, if all my stuff came tumbling down like that, I might have thrown a temper tantrum and even broken more shit. And what's amazing is I haven't had a temper tantrum like that in years. So many years. Since before I initially quit smoking, before the year 2014, probably, and much less certainly since I got a divorce. And that's not me putting responsibility on anyone else. It just was a million toxic variables going together. And so I'm doing much better overall with my patience. With everything that happened today, I'm like, okay, let's put this in perspective. Life is still pretty darn good. These are first world problems, right? Because I'm not worrying about food. I'm not in danger walking around on a third world street and, you know, they're like hungry. And my problem is I accidentally broke a TV. It just sucks. It's a TV. It's such a waste. What can I tell you guys, though? So this is coming at you late. And it's been aggravating, but I sort of managed it well. I listened to Alex Jones all day, which is kind of an irritant. It is, honestly. It's like fear porn, total negativity. Not all stuff I disagree with, just... So I probably had other things on my mind to talk about, but I mean, that's pretty much it. I might actually just cut this show short for today, and I'm letting you know what's up. And because it's late, and tonight I was also supposed to do a dance routine. That went down the toilet too. And by golly, what I am most definitely, so help me God, gonna do is practice guitar before I go to bed. That is going nicely, actually, okay? I've told you guys about my New Year's goals. Yesterday was day 21. Today's gonna be day 22 practicing guitar. A lot of rapid improvement because I already had that skill that I developed when I was younger, and I've been getting these fingers to the point where they don't hurt anymore, and I'm able to do things that I was not 3 weeks ago because of the very sensitive pain that I had in my fingertips. So I'm glad that I'm doing that. It does feel like personal development. It feels like the more I've been doing it, the more I've been enjoying it. Every day I've been coming up with new stuff that I've been recording on my phone. I've been jamming with myself on my phone. I've been going back to these riffs I recorded on my phone and playing them again. So you're wondering why I'm doing this? Because I think this thing has a screensaver, and if I don't do it, it's going to like go into screensaver mode and mess up my train of thought. So yes, still doing guitar, and that's going very nicely. I plan on taking doing a lot of new things rhythmically that I have just never done before. So that's the amazing thing about guitars. I feel like this is new, this is new, this is new. So right now I've made it to 21 days, and the goal is to make it 365 days and develop that as I go along. Keep rehearsing these riffs, developing these riffs, putting them together, getting larger, more cohesive ideas. I'm still learning the video editing. I've been doing tutorials on my computer, and that I should be doing a little more time with, but that's been going fairly well, and it's just these things I want to develop into the new year. These are my goals for personal improvement and whatnot, and I need those things. I feel like I'm looking forward to the future with those things. I have other things that are challenging me personally. I was very frustrated a couple of days ago with something else that I'm not really going to get into right now. I don't know if or how I will address that on here, because I like to be an open book. I like to talk about what's going on in my life, but these things, if I said, oh, here's what's going on, you could probably immediately go, oh yeah, then probably you realize you shouldn't be talking about that. But just trust me, that it's not nice, but I'm trying to cope with it and be smart and patient with the process. I don't like throwing a ton of money on bullcrap. And I'm not talking about today. I'm just... Oh, never mind. Someday I'll get to that. Very adult responsibility stuff. And I would talk about it if it weren't so private. But I mean, none of it is driving me back to using, whether it's marijuana or drinking. I haven't had the temptation to do that today, despite the frustrations. That's something I can point to that I think is good. That's the way it should be, though. Isn't that kind of like Chris Rock when he's talking about some guy who says, I take care of my kids? And Chris Rock says, you're supposed to take care of your kids. And so I'm not supposed to get stoned and high to deal with my problems. And so it's all good. Like I said on my Twitter today, today is an insane day, but it could be worse, and life is good. That's the message I put out there. That's a boatload of perspective in a tiny little tweet that you should take to heart and let it manifest in your life, because by golly, yeah. So tomorrow I anticipate I will be getting up and doing some form of physical activity. Who knows, maybe I'll do my dance routine that I'm missing tonight to keep up with that. And so... that's the scoop for now, people. I'm going to wrap this up. Yeah, I'm working on other stuff too. I have a Windows computer. I have a Windows computer upstairs where I reloaded Windows 7 on it. It's the fastest tower I've ever had. I have to get a FireWire card for it so I can hook up this sound card, which will allow me to DJ sounds directly digitally through this board into the recording, and it'll sound a lot better. And it's not so much for FitSpaz recovery as it is for this other radio show I'm trying to get my stuff going. Also, this week I called about getting a phone hooked up so that I can be calling and doing interviews, and still thinking about doing that over Skype. I'm not quite sure yet. Got to test that out though. It's a little tricky. So all these things I'm excited about, trying to better these things. The initiative to tear my studio apart was in an effort to better things. So that's another aspect of this perspective that, okay, yeah, I had a little snafu tragedy today with the broken TV, but it was all well intended. So eventually I'm going to have a new house someday, and I will be able to set up in an environment that's a little more conducive to what I want to do. And the whole getup, you see, will change. But anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. In the meanwhile, I want to thank Kevin MacLeod for the great music I get to spin in this podcast. Who knows, maybe someday I will make my own music for these things. And you can go to incompetech.com to find out more about him. And, of course, you can always send your feedback to Paul at FitSpaz.com. Follow the social media by searching FitSpaz on Facebook, and now my mind is brain farting, so I'm glad I'm wrapping this up. All my social media is available by going to fitspaz.com. That's like the main hub of everything. But follow me on Facebook, because that's where I do some of my special content. I put up a video this week of going to get a Christmas tree with the daughter, and that was nice, so you'll want to check that out if you haven't seen it. And like I said, I'm practicing with videos, so that's why I did that. Did that in Final Cut Pro, yeah. And so I'm gonna let you guys go. Have a nice day, take care in the meanwhile, and I will catch you later.